If you like to make your NFL games a little bit more interesting, you've come to the right place. It's the Even Money Podcast with Ross Tucker and Steve Fezzik.
Yeah, Vegas, baby, Vegas. It is the Even Money Podcast, the show that's presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours, and the show that's so nice, we do it twice. It's considered by many to be the number one NFL betting podcast that's out there. Love all the people that come out and check us out, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL each and every week. As a reminder, we do the first episode Tuesday mornings bright and early. That's when Steve Fezzik, the professional sports bettor, and myself, Ross Tucker, the former NFL offensive lineman, we place our bets against the spread, the totals, as well as any teasers that we like. Today's episode, the second episode, we record Thursday mornings. We talk about the line movement over the last 49 hours. We talked with Dr. Chao to get an update on injury information that could be actionable and helpful for us. Steve always has a couple of prop bets that he likes. And because we know a lot of you, including my buddies who will remain nameless, like to make some parlay bets every weekend, Steve gives out a parlay or two for those of you that want to go that route that we do not grade against, because he's doing it for you guys because you want it, not because he thinks it's the best way to make money. The Steve I refer to is Steve Fezzik at Fezzik Sports and only at Fezzik Sports. You can check me out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. And we start, Steve, with the line moves that we've seen so far this week, including the Chicago Bears. Money is coming in on the Chicago Bears. They are now up to -3 at Cincinnati in this game, as it's looking increasingly likely that Joe Flacco will not play and the Bengals might have to go back to Browning.
Yeah, and let's face it, the Bengals wouldn't have traded for Flacco if they had any confidence in Browning. I think we got to keep our eye on this. I don't think we can be wagering. Given that, frankly, I already fired on the over at 51.5, and now I'm beyond nervous given that news.
Well, and I will add to that with, I don't know if they were a teaser leg for you, but I did take the Bengals as a teaser leg up to 8.5. Flacco finished the game, so I assumed he'd be okay. So that's one rare one where the line movement has gone against us. What about the Rams? They are now up to 14 against the Saints. The line has gone in that direction after the formal announcement that Tyler Shuck would be the starting quarterback again. That's something you and I, Steve, anticipated on Tuesday's show. You know, when you bench a guy like Rattler, and then after the game, the head coach says some decisions have to be made. I mean, give me a break. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, and the problem is it's not just Tyler Shuck, but like there's so many moving parts in that Saint O-line. Ross, you as a former starting offensive lineman for multiple teams, when it's Jumanji and they're moving pieces around left and right, it's a disaster typically, right?
Well, and a big part of that is if there's an issue with the center. And I think we talked about this last week, and maybe I discounted that, taking the Saints plus the 5.5 against the Bucs. But McCoy is not only the Saints' best offensive lineman, but the center's the guy that makes sure everybody's in the right spot, especially with young quarterbacks like Rattler and Shuck. A veteran quarterback can kind of overcome that. The young quarterbacks, a lot of times, they cannot. Any other line moves that have jumped out to you, Steve? I'm looking at it. It looks to me like Patriots, Falcons is the same. I'm going through it. Vikings, Lions, the same. I guess there's been money that's come in on the Tennessee Titans. Weren't the Chargers 10-point favorites?
Yeah, that's interesting that has dropped downwards.
A point and a half.
Certainly you can add the, you know what, I'm going to do it. DraftKings, DK is giving you the -8.5, so add the Chargers into my teasers. Absolutely, because the
I
Chargers
am with you. The Chargers -2.5 as a teaser leg. That's now available. Steve and I are taking it. I have a bunch of teaser legs this week. As a reminder, we're only doing one unit on those teaser legs this week. A, because we have a lot of them, and B, because we're grading ourselves at -125 on those now. Colts Steelers looks the same. Falcons Patriots the same. Some money, I think, has come in on the Packers. That line's now up to 13.5. Maybe that's because of the Panthers' O-line issues. We'll talk to Chao about that momentarily. The Niners line is the same. Broncos line against the Texans the same. We talked about some of these other ones. Some money has come in on the Jaguars. On the Raiders. The Jaguars are now -2.5 as opposed to -3. So the Raiders could be a teaser leg up to 8.5 potentially, Steve.
I'd rather just bet them +3 at other places, but certainly you could consider it. Wouldn't be a mistake. I think the Raiders are the right side. Hey, real quick, I'm still alive in Circus Survivor. I will be on the Rams this week with my Survivor pick. I have them available.
Circa Survivor pick for Steve, still alive, LA Rams. All the other lines look the same to me from what we went over on Tuesday, which means it's time for Dr. Chao. One of our favorite times of the week when we get a chance to talk with Dr. Chao from sportsinjurycentral.com, SickScore.com for short. You want to get an edge? These guys are giving us an edge every week. It's been phenomenal. There's a reason why Steve uses them religiously. Billy Walters. Get the NFL 3-star sick pick of the week free. Plus, get a week of injury-based picks and player edge projections. Remember, sick picks are hitting at 62% on their 3-star picks this season. SickScore.com. Sign up for Sick Picks and use the code Ross. Dr. Chao is always on social media at ProFootballDoc. At SickScore is another place you can follow. Dr. Chao, tonight we've got Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, against the Dolphins. Last Thursday, before 10 a.m., before Lamar Jackson was listed as a full participant in Friday's practice, you called John Harbaugh on this show tricky, and you had your doubts about whether or not he would actually play, he being Lamar Jackson, and he, in fact, didn't. Take a bow, Dr. Chao. That was impressive. You were the first person anywhere to say that.
Well, look, thank you. And sorry for the different venue today, different schedule, getting ready for surgery this morning. Look, let me clarify my tricky comments. I mean it as a compliment to John Harbaugh that you can't get a read on him. That's like for a poker player. Is he bluffing or does he have the cards? It wasn't a criticism, but we followed John Harbaugh and his coach speak long enough that we sort of got that feeling is all. And this is why at Sports Injury Central, we do injury analysis and not injury reporting. So we analyze what is said, we analyze the video, we use source information rather than relying on a source telling us anything.
It's interesting. Let's talk about that tonight because I got another thing to ask you about. But so Lamar wasn't healthy enough to play Sunday, Doc. It's 4 days later, and now he is. I'm fascinated by that because usually if a guy doesn't play on a Sunday, they're going to give him the 10 more days rather than playing him on Thursday. But guess what? It happened last week with Joe Alt at left tackle for the Chargers.
It's that time of year when the team needs you, they need you, right? And look, what I said the full practice on Friday meant, first of all, we're still waiting for the fine incoming, right? It was not proper to say full practice for Lamar on Friday when it was the scout team. The fine's going to come to the Ravens. But what I said that meant is that document it and book it that Lamar's playing on Thursday. How do you go from full scout team practice on Friday to not playing the next week, right? Even on a short week. And that's what I interpreted that full practice on Friday to meant, that he was playing tonight, this Thursday, versus the Dolphins.
Okay, got it. All right. Curious about, we might get to some more quarterback. In fact, I want to get to a quarterback here, J.J. McCarthy. So this is fascinating to me, Dr. Chao. Last Thursday, we talked about the Chargers and the Vikings, and I called that game on Westwood One Radio that night. And you had said for a couple weeks that the McCarthy situation was an example of hiding behind health. Well, it turns out that when Jefferson goes out of bounds, McCarthy jumps over him, doesn't get rolled up, yet Wentz is out there with his shoulder that needs to be operated on. I mean, is there any way to look at it, Dr. Chao, other than McCarthy's ankle was clearly healthier than Wentz's shoulder? So why then is McCarthy not playing and Wentz was?
Well, injuries are never black and white. And once again, I am not calling out the Vikings or Kevin O'Connell as doing anything wrong. If anything, I'm very complimentary of Kevin O'Connell and his decision making. There's been some controversy. Should Carson Wentz have been playing? Look, I get it. He had an unstable shoulder, chip fracture, labral tear. But, just last season, Justin Herbert played through that non-throwing shoulder injury and had surgery at the end of the season. Previously, Baker Mayfield dislocated his left shoulder and had it put back in and returned to play the same game and finish the season. This is before his time in Tampa now. So it's been done before, and Carson Wentz was cleared to play. Yes, he's having surgery now. J.J. McCarthy, look, health is not a light switch. Healthy, not healthy. It's all relative, especially in week 8, 9 as you go into it. But the fact remains, J.J. McCarthy was healthy enough to be the emergency quarterback the last 2 weeks, which means he was cleared by doctors to be healthy enough to play. That doesn't mean he was 100%, right? So then it becomes a coaching decision, and 85% J.J. McCarthy versus somebody else. That's all I'm saying. I am not saying that J.J. McCarthy didn't want to play. I'm not saying he was faking an injury. It's just all relative in the world of the NFL in terms of decision making. And now, no question J.J. McCarthy's playing. Last week on the show, we talked about it was the week of quarterbacks missing. This is the week of quarterbacks returning to play, starting quarterbacks. I count 7 of them that didn't play last week that will play this week. The only one that's a little iffy still is Brock Purdy. Lamar's playing for sure, we talked about. J.J. McCarthy's playing. Bryce Young is playing, even though it was a, quote, high ankle sprain. Mild, different type of high ankle sprain. Michael Penix, bone bruise, different type than Brock Bowers, is playing. Kyler Murray is playing through the foot sprain. Jaden Daniels, hamstring, unless he has a setback. Washington always wants to be careful, is likely to play. Brock Purdy is close for the first week. He's the only iffy one of the 7. So a big swing in terms of the NFL and starting quarterbacks.
All right, so I'm curious. The Broncos lose Patrick Surtain, and the Texans are getting Nico Collins back. Is that a big edge? Is that built in the line already, do you think? Or is that something that, we should think is actionable?
Well, Steve Fezzik would be the expert on that, but I'm telling you that typically the quarterbacks are built into the line, but the other guys aren't. For example, last week when it became clear that Lamar wasn't starting, the line moved from 6.5, 7 to 1.5, 2, etc. Huge line swing based on Lamar. And at Sports Injury Central, we still liked the Ravens based on coming off the bye and their healthier defense. That doesn't get incorporated into the lines as often as a quarterback, etc. I don't think the Nico and Patrick Surtain are incorporated in the line. The good news on Surtain is it's not surgical, but it is a pec muscle, not tendon. That's the good news. But I don't think it's incorporated into the line just yet.
Any O-line, D-line games that we should keep an eye on? Maybe Carolina or the Buffalo Bills. I know that seems to be where we get the biggest advantage a bunch of times.
Yeah, that's the hidden advantages. And I will be the first to admit that we probably underestimated Eric McCoy's importance at center for the New Orleans Saints last week. They did not do very well without him. He's out for the season with his biceps. And that probably has to do, not only is he a top center, and you can speak to this, Ross, but he's the best player in their O-line, but he likely makes all the line calls for Spencer Rattler and then Tyler Shugg, right? And so that made a huge difference. We probably underestimated that importance last week, to be fair. However, this week, Carolina Panthers have lots of O-line issues, and you talked about the Bills D-line. This is the third week in the last few weeks that the Chiefs may be getting injury luck on their opponent. In week 4, we said take the Chiefs, even though the Chiefs were iffy, over the Ravens because their defensive injuries were just starting. I believe it was week 6 that we said take the Chiefs against the Detroit Lions because of 2 D linemen and a lot of the secondary of the Lions being injured, and that was an easy one. This is the third time in recent weeks. Buffalo has a rash of injuries, 2 key defensive linemen. Ed Oliver with the distal biceps that is likely to need surgery, top D lineman, Daquan Jones with a calf, and a couple of secondary issues. Those 2 D lineman issues are new and fresh this week, and the Chiefs get to face them again. So 3 top teams in the league versus the Chiefs, and all 3 of them end up with defensive injuries on the precipice of their game, and that gives the Chiefs an advantage.
Check him out on social media at ProFootballDoc, at SickScore, or just go to SickScore.com. When you sign up for Sick Picks, make sure you use that code Ross. Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
More great stuff right after this. Telling you right now, the Labatt Blue mini fridge and especially the cooler backpack are like 2 of the most important items in my life, especially the cooler backpack. Absolutely love it. And how about me getting it for free? Because I am part of Buy Beer, Get Gear from Labatt. It's rewards.labattusa.com. Number 1, Labatt is the best tasting light beer. Number 2, if you go to Buy Beer, Get Gear, you will see what incredible gear they have at rewards.labattusa.com. And you'll want to drink Labatt even if it's not currently your beer of choice. Rewards.labattusa.com. All right, Steve, let's dive into it with some of the props and parlays this week. Hopefully we get to an email question. I'll just tell you guys right now, if you go to westshorehome.com/Ross and you even just get a free estimate, I'll make sure to ask Steve your email question within the next week or 2. So that's my promise to you guys, westshorehome.com/Ross. But you got to email me, ross@rosstucker.com. The prop, you only had 1 prop last week, Steve. It was Dalton Schultz over 40.5 yards. This is unbelievable. This is honestly unbelievable. No Nico Collins, no Christian Kirk. CJ Stroud played maybe his best game in the last couple years. He was amazing. He throws for over 300 yards. All the yards were to the 3 Iowa State receivers, Hutchinson, Higgins, Noel, or the rookie running back, Woody Marks. That is, you were on the right side there, Steve. 40.5 yards for Schultz in a game in which Stroud throws for over 300 yards without Nico Collins as well as Christian. I couldn't believe that didn't cash for you.
Yeah, National Tight Ends Day, my you-know-what. Didn't happen in Houston.
All right. Then we got, you took the teams coming off embarrassing losses. The Falcons, Carolina, and the Commanders. None of them hit. None of them hit. I mean, Falcons and Carolina got hammered again. The Commanders got hammered ultimately. That's why it's a parlay that was plus 596. It lost. And then you like the Falcons team total over 26.5. Patriots over 23.5. Patriots came through. The Falcons did not. Which means, Steve, it's time for us to move forward to any props or parlays you have for this week. Let's start with the props. What do you got?
Yeah, let's start with tonight's game. I'm going to do, this is a late edition. I'm going to play Baltimore third quarter minus 2.5. All right. No guarantee, as Dr. Chao says, Harbaugh's tricky, but Baltimore usually defers, and Miami sometimes takes the ball a little extra, advantage that way. So on a prop side, I'm going to play Baltimore third quarter minus the 2.5. I'm also going to give you a parlay for tonight. I know I'm going out of order. I apologize, but same game. I'm going to play Miami first half plus 4.5. I'm going to parlay that to Derrick Henry to go under in the first half, under 44.5 rush yards. I know that's correlated. You'll take a haircut on the payout, but I do like both of those plays.
All right, so Miami first half plus 4.5 combined with Derrick Henry first half rushing yards under 44.5 is the Steve Fezzik Thursday night parlay. You also like, as a prop, just the third quarter Ravens minus 2.5. All right. Any other props or parlays for the weekend, Steve?
Yeah, let me go ahead and combine this as a parlay because, Dr. Chao makes some good points about concerns on the O-lines for both of these teams. So I think they're going to get blown out. So it's dangerous to play a bad O-line team. But you know what? If they do get blown out, we're going to get outstanding value in the fourth quarter because they're going to be down so much their opponents won't be looking to put their foot on their throats. So I'm going to play fourth quarter. I'm going to do this as a parlay. I'm going to take Carolina plus 3.5 in the fourth quarter. I'm going to parlay it to the Saints fourth quarter plus 3.5.
I love that bet, Steve. I love that. They're going to get blown out. They're going to be down by a couple scores. The other team won't be, pedal to the metal, and they'll hopefully get some garbage points to make it a little bit more reasonable parlay.
Yes.
That might be too long for the name of a parlay.
The garbage parlay. I don't know.
Garbage time parlay. I like it. All right. Let's get to a couple of emails, Steve, because people take advantage of our sponsors, whether it's the Game Time app or certainly westshorehome.com/Ross, and they want to get your insight. Gaetano from Montreal up in Canada. In your opinion, do you think Wong teasers have become or are becoming an outdated strategy since the introduction of analytics and more teams being inclined to go for two more often? In recent years, it feels like final scores are landing on more unusual numbers versus the NFL of old, thus 3 and 7. Thoughts?
It's a great question from Gaetano. I can't answer in French. It's going to have to be English. The biggest concern I have is with these plus 1.5 teasers up to plus 7.5. We are seeing more and more this acceptance of you're down 14, you get a touchdown late, you go for 2, so you lose by 6 or 8 a lot of the time, and then you don't cover the plus 1.5 up to plus 7.5. So that's the one area that I'm really being cautious about is teasing the plus 1.5 dogs, Ross, up to plus 7.5. I'm not as concerned on the favorite side because let's face it, if the game lands 6 or 7 or 8 or 5 or 4 or 2, if I'm laying, the minus 7.5 down to minus 1.5, they're still not landing 1 more often typically. So I'm fine playing the favorites downward. And let's face it, it's been a favorite year for the most part. What's amazing is that as good as the favorites have done against the spread, the Wong teaser favorites seem to be the ones that have crapped out in some recent weeks. A lot of minus 7 and 7.5 point favorites losing outright, being the only favorites that aren't covering.
The other question, Steve, I might have to email you this because Kendall Dexter seems like a smart guy. He basically does not think that wheeling teasers make sense mathematically. And he sent a very long email with a lot of examples of feeling like it does not make sense financially, or it does not make sense to wheel the teasers.
Okay, I can address that. It's a great question by Kendall. He's correct if some books have different lines. You don't want to wheel them all in one book, all right? Because let's say a game is lined at 7.25. What the heck is a 7.25? Of course, a team's favored by -7 in some books, -7.5 in others, all right? Let's say we wheeled 6 teasers like that. Well, obviously, you're not going to use a book that has 3 of the games at 7 and 3 of the books at 7.5 and play all the wheels there. You've got to separate it and say, all right, I'm only going to tease the -7s. I'm going to take the best number at each book, and I'm going to mix and match at the -7s with whatever book has -7s. And so Dexter's correct that you should always be shopping for the very best line on each one of these teaser legs. But, the record keeping would be impossible for us to go through all that. And that's why we just simplify it somewhat. You're not going to do much differently, but he's correct. You should, get the best number on each teaser leg, wherever that book is, that has the good teaser payouts.
You should also go to patreon.com/rtmedia so you can see all the numbers in black and white every week for all of our bets, especially now with all these teaser legs and props and parlays. Become a Tuckhead. It's $10 a month. You only have to do it for 2 or 3 more months. Patreon.com/rtmedia. Other than that, good luck, everybody. Hope you guys win some money this weekend.
Thanks for tuning in to Even Money. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.